guarantees on the quality of any of these. All right, so ask questions if you want, and if there's parts of the assignment, so the two-dimensional array, I'm going to add a web form. I usually do that first, just so I have it there, and I'll leave it as default. So again, I right-clicked on arrays and stuff, the project, and then just did add web page. You get the same thing through the website menu. All right, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put a calendar on here. I'm actually not going to use it because I'm going to let you guys figure that out for the most part. But I want to show you when I do, so let's look at the design. If I double-click the calendar, it has an event, calendar 1 selection changed. So if you want, instead of a button, you can use this event. This event will literally fire every time you click on a new date. All right, so it's, let me kind of, I'm just getting those out of the way. So if you want to do it, and if you don't want a button, you could use this event.
Can you go over how you put that in?
The way that I did this is I just in the calendar. Yeah, so the calendar, I just took it from the toolbox. I just drug it on.
Okay. And the toolbox is where?
Should be the
Toolbox.
So the toolbox will be empty if you're in the code view. If you're in this view, your toolbox will be empty. If you're in the source, what I did is I just drug it onto here.
But we changed the view.
So the view is down, design, split, and source. You see those at the bottom of the design gives you the graphic view. Source is what I'm on right here. Split splits between the two. Did you find your toolbox okay?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, just drag it in. You can't position it. You have to use CSS to position it. It just flows wherever you drag it.
Drag it over.
Yeah. And just to show you, question?
Where would you?
What do you mean, where would you?
Put the calendar?
It just has to be inside the form if you're in the code.
There's an empty div that is there in the default.
Yeah, it's a default. You don't have to put it in the div, but you do have to put it in the form. The divs can come or go. You can make your own divs and do whatever you want. The form is required, though. ASP.NET controls will not work if they're outside of the form. Yeah.
I don't know what's happening in my Visual Studio, but it keeps giving me all these things now. I don't know if you know.
Is it freaking out?
Are you downloading it?
Yeah.
It may take a little bit, and the download may slow it down a little bit. So give it a few more minutes. If it doesn't work, then we'll look at it. But generally, it does. I think this will be the first time you've used it on that machine in your profile. It seems to download these. I don't know why.
I paused the download.
Oh, I double click
Yeah.
on the calendar. Create the event. If you go to the design.
Yeah, so I double clicked. So again, I double clicked the calendar, and you can only do that in design, right? I double click the calendar to do that. If you want to do it manually, notice that there is on selection changed. It's an attribute. It's in the IntelliSense if you want it. And you can name this whatever you want if you do it manually. But whatever you name it, it has to be the same.
So
Yeah.
what exactly did double clicking on it do?
It created an event. Right? It created an event that fires whenever the selection is changed. So let's just do something minimal. Let's just record what the date, whatever date it is that you've clicked. Right. So I need like I'm going to add a label. And the reason I'm adding a label is so that I have something to put this in. Now you can, if you really want, you can write JavaScript alerts and things. But let's just do a label. I'm just going to leave it label 1. Not a good idea if you're actually developing something. But in the code inside this calendar 1 change, I'm just going to say label 1.text equals calendar 1 dot selected date dot, and we have lots of options when we get down to the twos. There's to long date string, to long time string. Let's look at the long date string. So whenever we click the calendar, it's going to display what the date is in the label. That's what it'll do. Notice the calendar 1, I did calendar 1 dot. It has all sorts of events and properties and stuff that you can use. One of them, the most that you probably would want the most, is selected date. When you are comparing the dates, right, with the array, you will use the selected date. Is the selected date equal to the date in the, and you probably want to use short time string for that. I might show you that, just how you do the comparison. But you would compare the two to see if they're the same. Yeah.
Did you change that line 15 manually, the calendar 1 from page load? Your line 15?
Did I type this in?
Yeah.
No, I
calendar
didn't.
1.
I typed this in, but I didn't type the calendar 1 selection change. The way I got that, again, is in the design. I just double clicked on the calendar. You have to be in design, not source, to get it. So go back to the default ASPX. Did you bring a calendar onto your page? All right, let's just see if this works, just to show you how that event works. It'll show the calendar.
Well, yeah.
And then when I click that, it'll say,
Oh, okay. No.
I don't understand that. What do you mean?
so it's on the event. Whenever I change the date here, it just,
Oh, you need to have.
it fires that event.
Now
Is it working?
Now it should all tie in.
It should. Let's look at your default SPX. It's there. Let's run it again and see what happens. Did you click into the calendar? Click a date in the calendar. It's working. It doesn't fire initially, right? I mean, it doesn't fire until you actually click one of the days in the calendar. Just real quickly so you can see how it renders. That's not very big.
Can we take if we take the label 1 off the text there on that label?
Yeah, it won't show
Show
up.
anything, and then when you click it, it'll
Yeah,
actually-
exactly.
Go ahead and delete that text thing there,
Yeah.
or click above for date.
How do we zoom this? Do we zoom it? For what it's worth, this is the calendar. And I know it's tiny. I'm not sure how to make this part zoom. What?
It's
It's really ugly.
for such a small.
So,
I'm saying, headache with a lot of inline style.
well, actually, there's not a lot of inline style there, is there? Yeah, it does. It just has color black. So I guess it is doing it.
That's what's gonna be seen.
And then hit okay.
All right, so generally you just don't want to mess with that. But the thing is, because it's a table, right, you can, actually it's a couple of tables. But you can, if you apply CSS to the table elements, it will format your table here. As I said, you don't want to mess with the internals here very much. There's a basically there's a JavaScript function call in every single cell, and then they also do a bunch of inline styles. Your style, if you call them, will overwrite those. Actually, will they?
Yeah.
I thought inline had precedent over outer ones. I'm not sure.
It does, because it reads the CSS and then it goes through. And then-
Yeah, I think inline has precedence. I'm not sure.
Because it depends on the specificity of your CSS.
Yeah. It might be that if when it renders on the server, it might look at the CSS prior to the browser rendering it. Although you can do you could apply a CSS directly to the calendar, and you can also apply it to the name, the ID, right? So you can apply CSS to the ID as well as use a CSS class to the thing. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I just wanted to let you see the possibilities. It is ugly, but it is World Wide Web 3, WW3 compliant, which the original ASP.NET stuff is not. It does follow the rules, even if it still produces stuff that's kind of ugly. So let me show one other thing that I think you might need to know for your assignment, which is how to compare dates. So in the code, I'm still running. So I'm going to go to the code page. I'm going to just real quickly, and this is purely just to show you how to compare dates. I'm going to change this to short date string. Short date string is more like, for today, it would be like 1/11/2017. So I'm just going to do actually, let's do and I'm just going to put it in 2017 for this year. All right. And then what I'm going to do is and let's make it with a lowercase b to be consistent on naming. I'm going to say if calendar one dot selected date dot to short date string equals. Do you guys know the equals function? What do you think it does?
Isn't it like the equivalent of 2 equal signs?
It's the equivalent of 2 equal signs, but it actually works better with strings. Is there a machine open anywhere? Yeah, there's a couple there.
And what's going on with your virtual machine?
Oh, she doesn't have enough room to download it. Her hard drive is too small. It doesn't have to be fixed.
How big do you need it?
So it's 120 gigs. She's got like 117 gigs for each gig. I think you had less than that.
You needed 26 more gigs.
You needed 26 more gigs, yeah. Most of the machines are fine.
Just this machine.
Yeah. Is there anyone, well, I don't know actually. But most of the machines seem to have a lot of room and hers does not, and I don't know why. So what does it not like about, oh, there shouldn't be a semicolon there. So I'm going to say label one.text plus equal type. I really cannot type. All right, so this is just to show, this is one way to compare them. This time I'm comparing them as strings. It's also possible to compare them as dates, and I'll show you that too. Let's see if this works. So what I'm doing, I just entered a birthday date that's 5/9/2017. The trouble with strings, if I compare them as strings, is that they have to match exactly. So I chose too short date string because actually that's the format for too short date string. And I use the equals because the equals is a better for comparing strings. Strings are weird. Anybody know what a string is underneath? It's an array of characters. Yeah, so you're comparing an array of characters, basically. The neat thing about that is that you can do substring, you can extract parts of strings, you can do all sorts of neat string functions. It's because they're an array of characters. So anyway, if this matches, we're going to add birthday to the text. The text right now is just going to show the date, but then I'm going to add happy birthday to that. Let's see if that works. The plus equal means to keep what's there, but add to it, right? If you're doing math, it means keep adding to the existing number. Here it's concatenating. So when I run, so when I do this, it just shows the date. If I go up to May, and if I do the 9, it did math. Notice the same in the happy birthday. Here. That is my birthday, by the way, if you want to bring me presents. So we won't be in this class in that. Then. Questions on that? Let me show you how to match it if it's a date. So I'm going to stop it for one. I'll just comment this. And I'll change it to date time. Birthday equals, let's see, how do I want to do that? Not sure if it does. Well, I know how to do it. Date, time, parse. There's probably another way to do this, but this will work. I'm entering it as a string, so I have to parse it into a date time. So here, all I do is I get rid of the too short string, and I get rid of the this. I'm going to do equal, equal, and get rid of this around birthday. And it should still work. It should be just we're comparing dates instead of strings now. Does that make sense? Let's see if it works. You need a second. This is just an alternative. All I'm trying to do is show you, because one of the things you're going to have to do is compare dates. But they are going to be strings in your array, so you might as well compare them by string. But I'll show you how to compare them as dates. If you wanted to compare them as a date, you would have to parse it out of the array, right? So you'd have to do this to convert them.
Does that mean it stores them in date time?
It does. It stores them as date times, which is interesting. You can. It has all sorts of string functions, which will convert them to strings, but it stores them as date time. For what it's worth, date time is basically just a big integer. Computers deal with dates by just choosing some arbitrary day to start counting. And the current date is however many minutes, hours, seconds, and things that's added to that integer from that arbitrary. And if it's before that date, they just put a minus sign. I actually don't know when computers start counting their date now. Anybody know? Well, they used to. They used to do it like in 1900.
I think it was like January 1st, 1970 for Unix, so I think Microsoft has a different start.
Yeah, I think
So,
there's a different, yeah. I used to, so they do, it was a fairly arbitrary date. It's like the date we made this processor or something. All right, so let's see if it works, my date comparison. And then, so this part works, but then let's see if I can go up to May again. And the 9th, and it worked again. So the two comparisons work. So questions on that? That's just for comparing dates. So let's look at a two-dimensional array. That's the other focus, right? Does anybody, how many have done two-dimensional arrays? So I got like 3 hands, 4. Yeah, they're not hard. They're a little bit weird. Two-dimensional arrays aren't too bad. They're kind of like a table. 3-dimensional arrays are a little bit weirder. And when you get into 4 and 5-dimensional arrays, in your I can't imagine any reason for doing that. Although some matrix math that they use multiple dimensional arrays. Typically, C# has data table structures, and there's also, if you have multiple fields at different times, it probably makes more sense to make an object out of them. But I will show you. I'm going to declare the array at the top of the page. And I'm going to do something different than the assignment. So I think what I'm going to do is like create a product array. So I'm going to do string product. And to make it a two-dimensional array, what I do is I put a comma in there. If you wanted it to be a 3-dimensional array, you put 2 commas in there. Right? So this means that there's 2 cells here. And for what it's worth, this is different than in Java. This is one difference with Java. It always drives me nuts because when I go to do it this way and it fails. In Java, you have to do 2 boxes. So I'm going to say it is equal to a new string. And here I'm going to give it the dimensions. I'm going to say it's going to have 10 rows and 2 columns. That's one way to look at the two-dimensional array. So it's a string array. It has 10 rows, and in that row it has 2 columns. Now it's still a 2-dimensional array if you say that there were 4 here, right? So you can basically, it's still 2-dimensional because you're dealing with number of rows, that's the first part, and then the number of columns. I'm going to do this in the most manual way possible to kind of show how these things lay out. And again, as I'm saying, in any real thing, you probably wouldn't do it this way. Let me get rid of my zoomer. It's in the way. So I'm going to do this manually. I probably should have done fewer than 10. 5, yeah, 5 makes sense. Just because I don't want to type that much. So I am going to do product, square brackets, 0, 0. And it's entirely up to you to keep this thing. So let's do a product description. What is our product description? What kind of products are we dealing with? Anybody?
Cars.
Cars? What? Holidays?
We're doing a calendar. Right?
Well, I wasn't going to use the calendar on
Oh,
this one.
okay.
What about produce?
We could do produce. That's easy.
Yeah, apples, bananas, whatever.
Now, what is it not like there?
Are you missing a paragraph?
No.
Mine says it's trying to specify the array size.
Right, but I did that.
I'm not seeing it.
It's not existing current context.
You know why I'm doing that? I can't do this here. The reason is I'm not in any method here.
Yes, I was.
So I declared it at the top of the class so that it has class scope. But you can't do anything with it there. You have to do it inside of a method. So I'll do it inside the page load method. I was wondering because the syntax was correct, it just wasn't. The only thing you can do in the class level thing like this is you can declare it, right? That's the only thing you can do.
Like 0, 1, 1, 0.
Right, right. So let's give a price for lettuce. So this would be 0, 1. So it's still row 0, which is the first row. This is the first column, this is the second column. What does lettuce cost? I think it was 99 cents last night. All right.
How do you get the document to show?
I wouldn't, because we want to convert these to numbers. I can show you how to do it in the formatting. All right, so let's do the next row. Product. So this is the first row 1, which is actually row 2, right? Because you always start counting at 0. 0 again, because it's the first column, equals carrots. And product 1, 1 is equal to whatever carrots are. I have no idea. Don't do it with single quotes. That is my SQL doing. All right. See why I didn't want to do 10. Now, if you had more columns, you would do like 0, 1, 0, 0, 2, 0, 3 until you were done with your code. Right? Here we go. This is, as I said, the most manual way possible to populate this. but it kind of lets you see how the two-dimensional thing works. And it's entirely up to you to make sure that the 0 column is the name and the 1 column is the price. There's nothing inherent in the array to keep that consistent. That's entirely up to you. So this would be 2 and then 0. Eggplants. I don't know how to cook eggplants. I think you just broil them. And bake them. Yeah, I know. I like. So last night I had an actual hamburger, but I tried vegetarian with the big mushrooms and the eggplant, and actually it's pretty good.
I'm even charred.
Yeah.
Chili and lemon sauce.
Yeah.
Chard is good.
Yes.
So well, I have no idea what an eggplant would cost.
Extra 225.
That sounds good. All right, so we've got a couple more to do. As I said, this is a very tedious way to do this.
That's what I'm doing, yeah.
What did you have?
Copying and pasting and then changing the.
Oh yeah, that's actually a much better way. Tomatoes.
Would it be 3-0?
Yeah.
Yes, it would. Thank you. You have good eyes, and that's not a 0. Okay, and that's not tomatoes.
Tomato.
Well, I mean, depending on who you ask, that would have been right.
I have a master's in literature, but I never learned to spell. All right, we've only got one more to do after this, so I have no idea. Tomatoes, $1.98. Depends on how many you're getting and what kind, but whatever.
Probably by pound.
Let's do, so I am going to cut and paste this one. Copy and paste. What? Onions, that's good. And again, it depends on the type of onion.
12 cents.
12 cents. So you just get the yellow onions. I'm going to do it as a decimal 12 so we can convert those. Again, the consistency here is entirely up to you. I guess we have one. Oh, this should be 4. I copied, but I didn't change. Okay, so again, when you do an array, this is the number of elements, not the highest index, right? And this is the number of columns. Let's do, I'll show you something kind of neat, and that might show you how to handle this, and then I might be done with these. I will give you, by the way, although probably I'll give you, what is today? Is this our last day this week? So I'll probably give you Monday to work on this.
We're not here Monday.
Monday's a holiday already?
Yeah, it is.
Well, I give you Wednesday to work on it. But that'll be plenty of time to forget everything. Well, if there's a lot of it done, if a lot of you have it done before this, I might move on to the next thing. But if not, I will give it lab time. I'm going to go back to the default, and I'm going to add something. This, again, remember, this isn't a logical, web page. This has nothing to do with the calendar, what I'm going to add now. So what do I want here? Let's do a checkbox list. And I'll just call it produce checkbox list, I guess. Get rid of the 1. So what I'm going to do is we're going to use the array as a data source for this, and I can show you a little bit about how to get the price out of it, because what you'll need to know about the two-dimensional array is how to extract the date and then how to extract the event, right? Because you'll have two parts. It might be fairly obvious in some ways, because if you want the first column, you do the 0. If you want the second, you do the 1, right? So. I'm going to do, it was produce checkbox list. Let's see if I can make this work. Data source equals produce, what are we, product? I'm going to do one other thing here. Produce checkbox data. I'm not entirely data text field. Does that work? I've actually never tried to hook a two-dimensional array to one of these controls, so we'll see how that works. And you don't have to do this for what you're doing anyway. So, but I don't know if this will work.
For some reason, putting data source in is not working.
I wonder what happens if I just do a link here. Product. I may do this more like you would do it in, yours isn't allowing the data source?
No.
Yeah, typo there.
Produce checkbox.
We don't have a checkbox anywhere, so.
You didn't add a checkbox?
I missed that.
All right, so what I did,
Oh, no, I do have it. Yep.
I don't know what that'll do. I'm going to run it and see. So on this, I added a checkbox list that I called. Is that why you're getting this?
Oh, there we go.
Can you read it that small?
Really? I have to manually type this
You
out?
shouldn't have to. You should be able to just drag it in the checkbox list.
I'm just gonna.
And then what I did is I just changed the name of it.
Individual checkbox. You need a checkbox list.
Yes, that's why.
Do you need help? I can help you change your font size if you want.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
What did you data bind it to?
I just data bound it to the,
Oh, okay.
I don't know that that's going to work, by the way. I'm experimenting too. Yeah, so options, fonts and colors. And then you can change it to whatever. Because actually, the way it is right now, I have trouble reading it.
Okay. That's much better. I think you can do control and scroll.
As I said, I don't know if this will work. Let's see. Actually, that worked. So it didn't work in a way.
I got it.
Oh, right. Because it gave me the prices too.
Oh, control.
Yeah, control and control.
Oh, universe.
So it isn't exactly what I wanted it to happen. Yeah, so one of the things we could do, instead of doing this, I'm going to, I think, add another method.
So you just deleted?
I just deleted that, what you worked so hard on getting.
Oh, just now?
Yeah, because it didn't do what I wanted it
Oh,
to
keep the
do.
checkbox list?
Well, yeah, we could leave the checkbox list. So I am going to, I think we can do this. So I think I'm going to add another method. Protected void. Let's call it get produce, I guess. And I'm just separating this out so that it's hopefully will be clearer later. I'm going to say for each string p in product, we called it product, right? With the lowercase p. So this is an experiment too. Remember last time we went through all the list items, right? Because you'll have a list item inside of the thing. So I'm going to say that the item dot text equals produce. Actually, so I might want to do a for. I might want to do is just a regular for loop because that works better. Let's just do a for. Int I equals 0. I is less than, what was the size of our array? Is 4.
5.
Yeah, less than 5. So we get up to 4. Yeah. I plus plus. All right. So what we can then do is product square bracket I for the row. And then we want to do the 0, right? Which is text. And then I'm going to this checkbox list dot item items dot item. Does that make any sense to anybody?
Yeah.
So I'm declaring an object called an item. That item will be the list item. Right? If you ever have a list, it contains a bunch of list items. So we're going to add the items to our checkbox list. We're taking the text from our array, and we're always 0 value, which is the text value, right? The name of it. And then I screwed up here because I have where I need a semicolon. For those of you in Python, does that make sense for a for statement? For statements in Python are a little bit different structure.
Yeah, you don't declare the type, the data type. I think it's always supposed to be an integer. Or what is happening, but that's
Yeah. And the plus plus is just incrementing by 1. So I'm going to call this from page load. So to call a method, I'm just going to say get produce. And let's see if that works.
Where did you put it?
I put the get produce, I put it up in the page load. So that's better. Right, that actually did what we want. It doesn't have the prices in there. Again, it has nothing to do with the calendar.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So every time you click, it reprints the list.
Right, which I can fix. Yeah, if we do the calendar here, notice the list gets repeated.
Could you just remove all the calendars?
You could kill the calendar if you want, yeah. I'm just, it was there for to show the other parts. So why is it repeating everything?
It's showing calendar stuff.
It runs the get every time you load the page.
Yeah, I just.
And so the way around that, do you remember what we did last time? Yeah, it's the post back. So in the page load, I'm not sure this was the place to define that array, but really, I'm not sure if it matters if we do it. Well, let's do it. If not is post back. And we need curly braces. All right, I'll walk back. Give it a second. This is to keep it from repeating. Curly brace.
You're still running?
Oh, I am still running. Thank you.
You start walking.
So in the protected page void, I've added if not is post back. And what that'll do is that it'll load the first time the page loads, but on later posts back to the server, it won't redraw these.
So leave your checkbox, your checks.
It'll leave your checkboxes intact and it won't repeat the checkboxes. So yeah, if not is post back. If you don't like the not, if you don't like this, you can say if is post back equal false.
Can I see what your closing curly braces?
Yeah, so my closing curly brace is after get produce.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Right after we get it.
And you said not post back will prevent it from repeating when you click.
It should prevent it from repeating.
For some reason, am I not supposed to have a semicolon?
No, sorry.
Yeah.
No, for some reason, it wasn't even showing the, yeah. It's not showing.
So let's see what, let's go back. Yeah, get produce, it's in the page load. Do you have the product check, produce checkbox? Produce checkbox. Why is it not showing? Okay, let's try it again. Let's see. Get produce. Let's go down. Let's try that actually looks perfectly fine. Why is that not showing? I didn't, but you can if you want. The next thing I'll do is show you how to get the prices out of this.
So I remember, like, even using Java in class when the code was perfect and it didn't work, so I had to copy and paste everything into a new one and then it worked. But I'm really hoping it's not buggy like that.
It shouldn't be. Get produce. That actually looks smart.
Well, I know what it is.
Item types equals product. Let's do it product.
Yeah.
So this checkbox items add item. It looks good. Why is that not working?
The driver's seat there.
Oh, that's right. I'm just gonna put a break in there. Make sure that it's called that. Okay. It is there. Yes, close it. That is weird. It's good.
Just having one thing.
It's good.
I had to give it back.
I didn't see. So create the array. Did you do mine? That's all working. Why is that working?
That box will be taken off of the applications and then that's my record is 2 pages long. So
if I don't clear,
I know administrators are doing it.
Let me look at my calendar. I'm not seeing nothing.
So really, we should be doing
Make a
this.
new one then? Copy and paste. Bring all that information over, see if it changes.
But array list, so in Java and C# you
Really annoying.
have to know how to know this. For 20 years.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, but you can do an array list.
So I was basically just wondering if there's a way to dynamically grow the array if I didn't know how long the array was.
There really isn't.
Okay, so I have to declare the array size.
Which is why I say this is not the way you would want to do this.
All right.
So you in C# and Java, you have to know the array size before you can initialize the array.
Okay.
Now, if you were getting it from database and making a local array, you could test the number of records and then create the array to that size. But there are much better ways to do this.
Right, yeah.
So one of the things you could do a list has no size. A list doesn't allow you to do 2 dimensions, but you could create an object called product that had 2 fields in it, and then and the fields could be
Are there hashes in C#?
hashes. Yes, there are hashes. That's a fairly primitive way to do it, but yes, you can do that.
Well, since we don't know that a date, well, actually, never mind, because for a hash, I would need to have, the keys would have to all be unique, right?
Yes.
So that wouldn't work anyway, because I can have 2 events on the same day. So, never mind.
What would really work is like in, again, you could create an object called event
Right.
that has 2 fields. One is called date and one is called description or whatever.
And then just have a list of that.
Yeah, and then have a list of that object. That's probably a better And it would be relatively easy to add and remove them. All right, let's get the dates, the numbers out of here, and then we'll call this good. I just wanted to be able to show you how to access the two parts of the two-dimensional array. And I'll post this and I'll also help you. I will say, given it's a couple of these, when I look at them, I see nothing wrong. And they're still not working. If that's the case, sometimes if somebody else looks at it too, another pair of eyes, sometimes they'll see something I don't. It can be driving me insane though to look at a thing over and over and over again. I see nothing wrong. But there must be some reason it's not working.
I'm trying to transfer information over, so it's right here.
I'm going to add a button under the checklist. And what we'll do is we'll allow them to check the things on the button, and then we'll add up the prices, right? So that, and then we'll give a total. So I might want another label too. So I've added a button and a label.
No, but
the button, I'll say. And I'll just say get total for the text of the button. And the label that I just added, where did it go? Did it go away? Why would my label go away? I must have had it highlighted when I started typing or something. I'm going to add the label back in.
And you're closing.
The quote is there gone too. Yeah. Good eyes. I might just leave it labeled too. Again, just for the test. I wouldn't do that in real life.
We're putting a button with a label below the button.
Yeah. It actually won't be below it. It'll be beside it. They go by flow layout if you don't CSS it. You know what I mean? And a label is not a block element, so it doesn't go into its own. So I just added a button and a label. The point of what I'm going to do is we're going to check what produce we're going to get, and then we'll total up the prices. We're only getting one of each. I didn't allow any quantity. But just to show you how to get the rest of the other part of the array out. Again, I'm hoping that this is because you guys are all kind of getting it, but there's a lot less chaos than I'm used to. If you're not getting it, that's fine, but let me know and we'll make sure because I do want to make sure everybody gets it. So I'm going to double click my button. And again, the point of double clicking the button is it creates that event for you. Otherwise, you have to type it in both places. And when you type in event, you always have to have the object center and the event arcs. You can use those. I'm not sure if I have any assignments where we need to use them, but you can use those because you can use the same event for multiple objects. And one of the things you can do is you can figure out what the object is by using the object, the sender variable. And if there are any arguments with that, you can get those too. I just want to say that they're not useless. We will probably never use them, but you can do things with those.
I don't know how to get this thing to work. I'm just going to open up the old one. I copied and pasted everything, but for some reason.
You're running. Let's see. But it didn't run?
No.
What did it do? It looks like you need one more. Let's go back. You need one more curly brace at the bottom. I think that might be all. We're still not showing it.
Well,
I will take a look at it again. There's got to be something I'm missing. All right, so in this button, what we want to do is we want to check the checkboxes to see if they are checked, right? And then how do I want to do this? We have to match. All right, I think I want to do a for each this time. So for each list item, and this would be in our produce checklist spot, items. We're going to loop through all the checkbox items. If item.text
Oh.
So I'm trying to think of what, I think I need a counter. Actually, I want to declare that outside the loop. I'm thinking this through while we do it, so it's probably very confusing in some ways. Product, counter, so that's the row, counter, comma, 0. So if the text is equal, that should be a square bracket, not a. I need one more paren. I did need another paren. All right, so if they're equal, then we'll do label 2, because I didn't name it, dot text equals plus, or plus equal. Well, actually, so what do we want to do? We just want the total, right? We don't have to do a. I'm going to do a total up here too. I'm going to basically get the other element. Total product plus, so it'll be whatever the counter is, comma 1. And then I have to do another thing there. I have to do double dot parse. That makes sense? No.
Converting it from a string.
It's converting it from a string to a number, to a double, because we declared the total is a double up there. And what we're going to do, the plus equal, will keep adding it to it. Right, and notice where instead of using 0, right, so the counter is going to be, we have to do one other thing in here, which is I have to increment the counter. But the counter will change with every row. So the counter will keep track of the rows. The 0 column is the text. The 1 column is the price. Right, so we're going to get the price. So one of the things I have to do outside the if is counter plus plus, so that it increments by 1. So it's going to start at 0, and it's going to go into the list item. It's going to see if, oh, there's one other thing we have to do. Remember, we did this last time too. I have to make sure that it's checked. If So outside of this, I'm going to say if item dot selected. I know, I'm confusing. We'll try to talk through this. So if the item is selected in our list, then we'll check to see if it matches anything in the array. If it does, we're going to add the price. So in the end, we're going to have the total will be our total price. Does that make sense? We have to display it still, but we'll do that in a minute. So I declared a couple of variables, a counter, because I'm doing a for each. A for each doesn't have a natural counter, right? It doesn't have that input. So, but we're going through all the list items in the produce list that we made. And it's going through here and it's testing to see if the text of the item matches the text in the array. And it should, because that's how we got the text for the items in, the checkboxes initially was from the array, so they should match if they're the same. If it does match, we're going to add the price of that thing, which is in the one column, right? So the second column, to the total. But we have to convert it to a number because they're treated as strings. And then we'll increment it so that it goes through the next row of the It's important that you start with 0. And actually, one of the rules in C# is that you can't assign anything in a loop if you don't initialize it outside the loop.
I'm getting an error. It says item not existing.
You don't have the for, that goes inside the for each loop.
No.
Because item doesn't exist until after here. Okay, so let's do one last thing at the very bottom of this. This is all in the button, which will be outside of the. Okay, so we have the beginning of the for each loop, end of the for each loop. Okay, so then what I'll do is label to dot text, not test, text equals your total is plus total to string. And if I want to put currency in here, I think C works. If it doesn't, we can format it directly. Does that make sense logically? I wasn't trying to be too elaborate here. All I wanted to do is show you how to get stuff out of both parts of the two-dimensional array. If you remember that. I added it to the form, so if you don't have it, you can just add a label. And I didn't name my label, so I left it. Well, let's see what we get. Yeah, I got $0 too, so it's not getting the.
I don't think we did any of that amount.
What?
It's a good price.
Yeah, it's a good price. So why are we getting $0?
I don't think we ever did a calculation.
Well, this calculates total plus equal. If product counter equals 0, is it matching?
We need to pass a string back.
For what?
The label, text, money total of doubles.
Well, total, yeah, so I made it a string. I'm going to do you guys know what this is?
It's
how you troubleshoot. It's another.
It's a break in the code, and what we can do is we can go there. So I'm going to click a couple of these. I click on that. We're here. So one of the things I want to do is product counter equals 1. So let's look at this. Why am I not seeing product? It's a string 5.2. It tells me what it is. Counter is 1. Well, actually, so carrots. All right, did I click on carrots? So well, that's what the item text is. I want to see what the other element is. Total is 0. I have an idea how to fix this, so we can do that.
I wish I could see.
Which, well, yours isn't working, yeah. Mine isn't working really either. I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to put it right here, I think. So I'm going to do string product name, and it's going to equal product square brackets counter comma 0. And down here, I should be able to just do product name. The only reason I'm doing this is I want to see what product name I'm getting. Right? So I'm going to put the break back in there, and let's see what's happening. So product name is null there, but if I press F11, product name is still null. Why am I getting nothing?
I recommend a different grocery store.
Yeah. Why is product name null? It's not matching the product name for the product. That is our thing, right?
Yeah.
Product.
Can it not see the array in its own method?
I'm wondering that too, although I declared it class level.
The actual data is in the other.
It still should see it because it's class level. Because it saw it when we did this, right? So it should see it here. Product name equals product counter. Counter is counter is 0.
We have to move the counter up inside where the item dot selected one is. So it goes through inside there. Or
it shouldn't matter because when I do the counter here is 0. So if I do F11, then it goes back, and then it skips that. But the counter is now 1. Counter up here is 1.
I think that's the issue. So you actually put the data in the and it does add it.
It does add it. Shouldn't need it. So if I copy this here, oh, you know what? It may be because it is inside the is postback. Let's see if it works. Yeah, it works.
So if you take the postback out of
But if you take the postback out, the list will redraw every time.
Yeah.
Take if post back out.
Yeah, if you take the if post, don't take it out. If you take it out, it will redraw every time.
Wouldn't that be good to allow you to recheck other things each time?
But it's not redoing this.
You just keep adding up.
Well, it should. Whoa, now I killed it.
If you take things off, it'll reduce it to.
I did okay, so it reduces. But it's not doing the total.
Can't you just keep calling method and post back and determine the data outside of this request?
You should be able. So you mean just do this outside of the method?
Do that in post back with
The other, yeah, I think that's actually probably better. I will walk through this if I get it to work. So let's not do this. And I will walk through it and then let's see if that fixes it. Okay. It's that fixes it.
I'm just trying to get checkboxes to even show up.
I know. I will be there, I promise.
Yeah, that works. Yeah. And if you uncheck boxes, it'll reduce the price.
Yeah.
Everything works good.
So let me walk through the top. From the top, do you want that? Yeah. And then I will post it, and then we'll talk about it again if we need to, because I know that's kind of confusing, but I had to think through it. Again, you guys are handling it really well. So at the very top, I declared the array. That gives a global scope, but the problem was that the data part we were only doing if it wasn't a postback. So when I come down to the page load, I loaded the array, but it's not in the if not is postback. The only part that I did that for is this, just for the calling of the get produce. That keeps the list from repeating over and over again. But the this is repopulated, so it's okay. The way it was before is I think it lost its content after the get produce, after the first time. So I declared it at class level. I assigned all of these just like before. The only difference is I moved the if not is postback to be just around get produce. Right, just around that call. And I made no changes to get produce. It's just a loop. We create a list item for each product name, right? And it adds into the checkbox list. Then in the total button, which is where I confused everyone beyond repair, because I couldn't figure out. So we did a counter just so that we can use our array. We need the index, right? So we created a counter and a total to store the results. So I'm going to search through all the list items and the checkbox items. I'm going to check to see if they are selected. This is an extra step you didn't need to do. I did it for troubleshooting, but it doesn't hurt anything. We're just assigning the name to a string. We're getting it from whatever row we're in, plus the price call. So actually, this is the name call. We're getting the name out of that. And then instead of matching it to the array directly, we're matching it to the string that we pulled out. The other way should work just fine. I just couldn't see the name when I was doing it. All right, so then we test to see if the item, because we're looping through all the items, if it is checked, then we want to add the price of that item to our total. Okay, so either way, as we loop through, we want to add to the counter so that we move through our array. And then I'm just putting the total out as a part of a string there. Just did it show? It showed it as money too, so the C works. Yeah.
I'm still a little confused about your line 65.
Okay.
To me, the line above it, that if item not selected, is checking to see if it's selected, right?
Right.
So then what is line 65 doing?
So line 65 is checking to say if it's selected, then what we want to do is item text equals product. So product name, remember, is coming from the array. Does that make sense?
It makes sense that product name is coming from the array.
So what we're doing is we want to check. So we've checked, say, lettuce, right? So in the array, we want to match it to lettuce to get the price that's associated with lettuce. This might make more sense if I go back to the way it was originally. So what we're doing is we want lettuce matched to, so counter in both of these cases, say, is 0 or 1. 0 would be for lettuce. This would be 0, 0. This would be 0, 1. That means this is the price that's associated with lettuce. So what this is doing is going, it's looking for the match in the array and then pulling the price over from that.
Is this going to be posted online?
It will be posted.
Okay, I just, for some reason, lost everything.
You just lost everything? Yeah. It might still, that looks like a whole new product. Well, actually do your default.
Oh, okay. But I didn't know how to get the tab.
They should be, I wonder why they're not.
All right, I gotta go to my class.
All right. Tell you what, we will save it. I will post it online, but also I would really love to solve this, figure out what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Mine's good. So theoretically, it should work.
So I have programs too.
Somehow we got a grocery list.
Yeah.
Mine is working.
What if you uncheck lettuce? You gotta uncheck it.
Oh, wow.
Mine is working. I'm not sure. It may depend on where you do your counter. It needs to be outside the loop. I mean, outside the if. Yeah, I'm going to post it right now. Do you want it in GitHub or do you want it on the blog?
I don't care.
GitHub? All right. I'll post it on GitHub. I'll put a link in an announcement. Yeah, this was just a show to show you different pieces of what you might do for the assignment. It's a little bit different than what the assignment is. In the assignment, you aren't going to have to do any adding and subtracting. But you will need to be able to access the two different parts of the two-dimensional array.
Oh, you did, yeah.
So yeah, I'll put this up on GitHub right now and put an announcement in.
Visual Studio required me to sign in, and I couldn't remember my.
It shouldn't ask. It shouldn't have to sign in.
It asks you to
But
sign
it
in,
did.
but then there's a button that says continue without signing in.
Not online. It,
Huh.
I finally, I was able to sign in because through contact.
Changing the due date on this.
Yeah, don't worry about the due days.
Oh, that's good.
All right. I forgot this Monday was a holiday. I knew there was one, but I didn't think it was this Monday. All right, so what do I need? I need to go to GitHub. Oh, I need to kill the video too. Absolutely. Here, I'll come